So I'm going to read from my second novel, which is still in hardback, Perla. And this is a book that explores the aftermath of disappearances in Argentina. If you know about the desaparecidos, just a small cliff notes. In the 1970s and 80s, there was a dictatorship in Argentina under which it's estimated that 30,000 people disappeared. So they were tortured and kidnapped and tortured and killed by their government. This book opens 20 years later, in 2001, when a young woman finds a strange man in her house who turns out to be the ghost of one of the disappeared. And she was raised in a military family and sort of racked with guilt and complexity about that. And the book is sort of the slow collision between these two people as they unearth memories and figure out what they mean to each other. So what I'm going to read from is one of the memories of this ghost of the disappeared that takes place before he and his wife disappeared in 1978. So we're going around the world. Next stop, Argentina. The memory that comes to him begins with beauty. It was a beautiful day. Blue skies, loud streets, a victory for Argentina. The World Cup had come to Buenos Aires. It was 1978. The whole world had turned its eyes to them, and they had won. He felt an electric flush of vindication. He couldn't help himself. He certainly had his skepticism of nationalistic fervor, but still, the world was watching. They stood at the zenith of the world, and even if he balked inside at patriotism in these turbid times, he could not deny, could never deny, his great passion for soccer. He had watched the game with his whole body taut, leaning forward from the chair, his legs thrilling with each flex and run and glorious kick. His head felt the thump of the ball, the shouts of the crowd, the hair slick with sweat and wind and motion, as though he himself were on that field writing his nation's name into the books of history. He cheered and groaned and tensed along with all his fellow countrymen in the stands and also home in front of television sets like him, separated by walls of plaster and ideas, but united for today in the throbbing nexus of the game. And when they won, his fists shot up, his body leapt, his lungs were bellows, pressing out the orgiastic goal that shook his body and the city and the world, the whole damn amazed circumference of the world. And now, an hour later, the television still roared. The streets outside his open window roared as well, rife with sunshine and throngs and blue and white flags, honking cars, radios chanting, "Ganamos! Ganamos! We won! We won! We won!" On the television, more crowds, even thicker crowds. You could see the wide mouths and the fists high in the air, and General Videla among the uniforms, shaking hands with Henry Kissinger, who came thousands of miles to witness the event and salute the Argentinian nation. He was in the stands to see their strength and victory, a not-so-tacit approval of the coup, of course, the USA all smiles with the generals, but by the glow of the World Cup, even this fails to disgust him. The cheers from the street erupt in polyphonic splendor, and he feels them in his body. He wants to descend, to join them, to merge with these streets that are his streets after all, the people's streets, streets that can be danced across despite the rumors of these times. He is only waiting for Gloria to arrive. Any moment she'll be home and they will plunge into their city. Gloria arrives late, her coat flung open. The buttons have long stopped closing around her pregnant belly. She bursts in with coat and hair and eyes loose and wild, and she glares at the television as though it were the worst kind of perversion and says, "Turn that shit off!" He stares at her from his perch at the small balcony. "Turn it off!" He comes in, turns it off, and tries to calm her with his hands along her shoulders, but she will not be calmed. She wrests from him and paces, a caged animal. "My brother's gone." "Gone?" "He disappeared. Yesterday. He went to work and never came home." He reaches for something to say, but can find nothing. Outside, the elated voices. "Ganamos! Ganamos! We won! We won! We won!" "My mother hasn't stopped weeping. I tried, but I couldn't make her stop." She looks up. The blankness in her face terrifies him more than her words. "Gloria," he says. "I don't know what to do," she says. "Could he have been a montonero?" It is the wrong thing to say. She turns away from him. "Should that permit them to do whatever they want with a man?" "I didn't say that. I don't know what he was. I don't know what he wasn't. I'm sorry." Mama's taken out her kerchief. She's joining the mothers of the Plaza de Mayo. He thought of Gloria's mother out on the plaza carrying a large photograph of Marco. "That's dangerous," he said. "She doesn't care. She says we should be careful." "Us?" She nods. "We haven't done anything." She flares up, bares her teeth. "What does that matter? Can you tell me what Marco did?" "Of course not." "Can you? Can you?" "Gloria, calm down." She says nothing. A wave of trumpets rises through the window, buoyed by the sound of honking cars. The opening lines of the national anthem played on brass and sung along to by the exultant mob. "Oíd, mortales, el grito sagrado, libertad, libertad, libertad." Listen, mortals, the sacred cry, freedom, freedom, freedom. He should be thinking of her brother, her hermanito, as she still called him, even though he towered over her with his eager lean and stubborn streak and shaggy hair and au courant moustache that belied his age. But he can only think of Gloria's belly, the baby inside, only 3 months from bursting out into the world, and his task as protector that has already begun. He must defend the baby, wild creature who kicked against my palm last night, from all the dangers, including the danger of a womb receiving panic from the woman it inhabits, the chemical reactions of despair. He wants to calm them, smooth them out. Surely all will return to balance if only Gloria will be calm. He says, perhaps they'll release him soon. God, you're such an idiot. You still don't get it. He can't stand the distance between them, longs to close it. He says, I'm sorry. Mama thinks we should leave, she says. The country? Yes. Is she leaving? No. What do you think we should do? I don't know. I don't know. She rubs her wide belly and weeps without making a sound. Thank you so much.